Hey, this is Jeff, the host of the Reading and Writing podcast. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. I have a company that I want to tell you about that I think you will definitely be interested in as a podcast listener. Family Sounds. Have you ever gone to a family reunion and traded stories and laughed with your relatives, and later you thought, gosh, I wish there was some way that we had a way to preserve those stories and preserve those memories when we're not face to face? Well, now you do with Family Sounds. Family Sounds can create an hour-long podcast that's just for you, that's just for your family, that tells the stories of your family and your relatives. And Family Sounds team, they're pros. They've done this before. They have lots of experience crafting stories for public broadcasting through radio and podcasts. They will use your family's voices as well as a professional narrator to tie the story together. Again, the name of the company is Family Sounds, and you can find them at family-sounds.com/books. Again, that is family-sounds.com/books. Family Sounds, your memories, your family in a podcast today. So check them out. family-sounds.com/books. Thanks for listening. Are you on a search for a special holiday or birthday gift for a reader in your life? A reader who loves history? Well, I've got a suggestion for you. How about giving them weekly historic letters in the mail from Letterjoy? Every week, they'll receive a letter from a famous historical figure or an eloquent eyewitness to a major event. Past Letterjoy letters have included famous defense attorneys, the United States and China, or working on the railroad, exploring the American history of the railroads. For example, one letter was an engineer writing home to his wife to describe the tough process of laying tracks for the Transcontinental Railroad. Every Letterjoy letter arrives at your door on fine stationery or parchment with a real stamp. And each letter also includes the postscript, an article by expert curators on the latest letter and the historical figures and events connected to it. Visit letterjoy.co to give weekly historic letters to the historian in your life. And I have a special offer for listeners of this podcast. Use promo code BOOKS at checkout to get $5 towards your first order. Again, that's letterjoy.co, promo code BOOKS, to give a special gift to the reader in your life. Welcome back to the Reading and Writing podcast. My guest today is Steve Gamel, author of the new book, Write Like You Mean It, Mastering Your Passion for the Written Word. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Well, what led you to write your book, Write Like You Mean It?
I've been told for years, especially by my mother, that I needed to write a book. And I always had that in the back of my mind, but I just wasn't ready for it for one reason or another. And this goes back many, many years. She actually had told me or begged me to write a children's book. And it just wasn't something that I was ready to dive into at that point in time. But when I did decide that I wanted to write a book, this one just really screamed at me, jumped off the page and said, "Hey, please, write me." I've had a blessed, long career thus far in the writing and editing world. And I've learned a lot, whether it was stuff that I've learned through trial and error or things that have been passed on to me or passed down to me by mentors and beat into my head over and over again. And I think the worst mistake that I could ever make is to keep all of those tips, tricks, life hacks, things of that nature to myself. I really wanted to have a down to earth conversation with other writers about writing and how we can be better at it. And I wanted to share all that information with everybody else out there. That was pretty much my initial thoughts, and now it's finally out, and I'm extremely excited about it.
That's great. Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What led you to writing originally, and what writing jobs have you held over the years?
Yeah, sure. So initially, I never imagined being a writer. My goal in life was to be on ESPN. I wanted to be a sportscaster. I wanted to be a sportscaster like
Joe Buck.
yeah, Joe Buck, Chris Berman, Stuart Scott, all those guys. I just love the way that they told stories, and they you could tell they just really enjoy, sharing what was going on in the world of sports, things like that. So that's what I ultimately wanted to do, and that's what I went to college for. I went to the University of North Texas and got my degree in broadcast journalism. However, a large chunk of my course curriculum was obviously writing, and my first job was with a small community newspaper called the Louisville News in Louisville, Texas. And I had an opportunity to be a sports writer for them the summer before my junior year in college. And, honestly, I just fell in love with the writing side of things. I loved being able to tell stories and write feature stories, cover games, things of that nature. And that's the direction I ultimately took my career in, was just newspapers. And that's where I started, was with newspapers and local magazines, things of that nature. Initially, I was just a sports writer. Over time, however, I wanted to see and understand more of what the writing life had to offer. So I started dabbling in other different, other types of writing, and whether it be movie reviews or feature stories on local businesses, writing press releases, helping my friends edit their, term papers and, stuff for college and things of that nature. And over time, I've managed to cobble together a pretty nice career for myself in the writing world. I've written for the Dallas Morning News and the Denton Record Chronicle. I've written for various local neighborhood magazines. And then what I really enjoy is having an opportunity to work for, and write for small business owners who need help with their content writing and editing needs, really giving their business a voice through blogs, content writing for websites, newsletters, press releases, things like that. I've been doing this for almost 25 years now.
Well, are there ever days when you sit down to write and the words just won't come? And if so, what do you do?
Absolutely. I think every writer experiences those bouts of writer's block, and nobody has anything positive to say about writer's block. I certainly don't. But I actually talk about that a lot in my book, Write Like You Mean It. What I do is, one thing that I've tried to do over the years with writer's block is try to pay attention to what's writer's block trying to tell me. Am I rushing too much? Am I trying to, not giving myself enough time to really allow the thoughts to become crystal clear? Do I not have good enough time management skills? Things of that nature. And so really what I've tried to do is also just understand how my mind and my body works, and when it's the right time to write. Those are usually some of the best ways to help me beat writer's block. For example, I'm usually at my most, at my creative peak, I guess you could say, either really late at night after my wife and kids have gone to bed and the house is quiet and it's just me and my computer, or very early in the morning, getting up as an early bird, at 4 o'clock in the morning, for example, and just start writing whatever it is that I happen to be working on at that time. And that alone, there's a bunch of different methods that I've employed over the years, but that first and foremost has really helped me overcome writer's block because I'm paying attention to when I'm at my creative peak.
Well, are there common mistakes that you see writers make?
I mean, as far as what, just as far as like when it comes to writer's block, or
Well, not just writer's block, but I was just wondering in terms of your you're offering advice for writers in this book. I was wondering if there were kind of common mistakes that you kind of have encountered.
yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, a message that I'm always trying to relay to other writers is, putting a human face on a story. Many times, it's easy to, get caught up in the stats and the statistics and figures and things of that nature when you're trying to tell a story, whether it's about a late night smash and grab or you're trying to write a game story for something that you covered, things of that nature. But really, in my mind, that's a mistake. I feel like, writers need to be more conversational in their approach. They need to put a human face on whenever they're writing, just so that they can create more relatable content and help people understand the message that they're trying to get across. I think, in my book, I really, try to stick with that. That's a theme throughout my book, because I mean, I could have easily have written this as kind of a, I don't know, boring textbook sort of thing, just basic one tip after the next with not a whole lot of explanation or real life examples of how I've used this to, to benefit myself and things of that nature. But what I did instead was I just really told it through this, the lens of what I've experienced in my own life. I put a human face on it myself, other, mentors that I've had over the years to really drive home those points and come up with more, relatable, copy that people will really, enjoy reading about. I think that's one of the biggest, errors that I see in a lot of, copy that I see out there, is people don't put a human face on things.
Gotcha. I'm curious, what would you recommend? Are there some basic ways that someone can improve their writing skills?
Yes, absolutely. I think, initially, you want to focus on basic, um, uh, down to earth writing, simple sentences, short, simple sentences with quality, down to earth, storytelling, is number one. Focusing more on the active voice versus the passive voice, is obviously, huge. Avoiding wordiness, is another key component. And just, obviously honoring the editing process, just making sure that you're going through and you're doing your own self edit to try to find ways that you can improve your writing, and then turn around and make sure that you have, mentors and other writers, looking over your shoulder, helping you, improve your writing.
That's great. Well, what books or writers do you turn to when you want to read either nonfiction or fiction or journalism?
Growing up, I was really big into, I don't know if you remember Shel Silverstein, Giving
Hmm.
Tree and all that sort of stuff. I really enjoyed writing about that, or reading, that sort of stuff. And, obviously I mentioned my love for sports growing up. And so I really just focused on reading, um, biographies, autobiographies, and things like that, to really just learn, from those types of writers, and how to, how they tell a story and things like that. Currently I try to read anything and everything, whether it be, newspaper articles, even if it's something that I'm not necessarily, um, that interested in, based on a topic, I guess I could say, just to make sure that, I'm constantly reading, trying to understand, see how different writers go about approaching different topics. And then reading with a critical eye, trying to understand, okay, What did I like about how they read? They wrote their article. What did I not like? How would I have written it differently? Just not only reading, because writers are told that all the time: read, right? But I always say, read, but make sure you're reading with a critical eye as well.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you made the transition from the early days of your own writing, from sports writing and journalism to doing more copywriting and press release writing, et cetera. How did you make that shift yourself?
Well, I think my journalism career, really helped me in terms of sitting down with people and interviewing them. Whenever I'd have interviews, I'd make sure that I focused on, actively listening to them, trying to understand the message that they were trying to tell me, ask the appropriate questions, and really understand the why behind what was going on or whatever it was that I was, writing about. And so when I transitioned to content writing and things of that nature, it really helped me because, that's pretty much what I still do whenever I'll sit with a business owner. And even if it's something as simple as a 500 or 600 word blog post, on, something related to their industry, I'm trying my best to sit with them one-on-one, interview them, help them educate me on the topic and ask questions. And if I do that and I actively listen, I feel like that's really helped me, tell those stories on a relatable level and, give them the copy that they need to give their business a voice.
Calling all partners. Losing weight is better together with Nutrisystem's Partner Plan. In fact, people who diet together lose 20% more weight than dieting on their own. Get new premium meals with up to 30 grams of protein. They're big and filling and taste delicious. Plus, try our new restaurant faves that taste like your favorite restaurant, portioned with half the calories. Don't wait. You could win big cash during Nutrisystem's Better Together Partner Plan $100K giveaway. And maybe win the grand prize of $25,000. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off your first month. You heard me right. Go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off. Don't wait. This partner plan offer will not last long. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off. Go to Nutrisystem.com/thin. See website for details on our 2-month subscription offer. No purchase necessary. Open only to U.S. residents over 21. Void where prohibited. Runs December 25 through April 4th, 2022. For official rules, visit Nutrisystem.com. Sponsored by Nutrisystem, Inc.
Well, where can people find you online if they'd like to learn more about you and your book, Write Like You Mean It?
Yeah, sure. So I currently own a writing and editing services company called Edit This. And my website address is editThisLLC.com. And on that site, it pretty much has everything that you'd want to know about me as far as work I've done in the past, a little bit about some of the history and where I went to school and all that sort of stuff, kind of like the about me type stuff. And I also have information, a separate page that's dedicated to Write Like You Mean It, with links on where they can obviously buy the book, plenty of testimonials from some fabulous writers out in the writing community who have endorsed the book, and just some of a small peek behind the curtain. I didn't want to give away the farm too much, but just a peek behind the curtain as to some of the different things that I and topics that I try to approach in Write Like You Mean It.
Great.
Well, of course, I'm all over social media. I'm all over social media. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram as well.
That's great. Well, again, we've been speaking with Steve Gamel, author of the book, Write Like You Mean It, Mastering Your Passion for the Written Word. The book is available now, so go buy a copy. And Steve, thanks for doing this interview.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
Great. Thanks a lot.